Are you better off than you were 5 years ago? What about 10 years ago or even 20 years ago? If you answered no to any of those questions, then if you live in Indiana, you need to stop voting for Republicans.
In Indiana, tensions are rising fast as Trump voters grapple with an economic meltdown they never expected. Stay tuned and listen closely. These are real stories from real people dealing with the fallout of Indiana's growing Trump voter uproar.
Indiana is a purple state. The only reason people think it's a red state is because Republicans control the maps and control the narrative. These Republicans, like all of our congressional reps, our governor, and a bunch of state lawmakers, are talking about Indiana as if it is so conservative it should be 100% Republican. That's not even close to being true. Over the last several presidential elections, Hoosiers have gone for the Republican presidential candidate with 52% of the vote. Our current governor, Republican Mike Braun, who, remember, was a Democrat until 2012, he flipped to be Republican because he knew it would be advantageous to him. He only won with 54% of the vote. How does any of that mean Indiana should be 100% Republican? It doesn't. They're all just desperate for power. And they already have so much power, it's insane that they want more. Indiana's current congressional delegation is 82% Republican. It was 45% Republican as recently as 2008. Indiana's state legislature is 73% Republican. It was 56% Republican as recently as 2008. Indiana has not become drastically more Republican. They have just drawn the maps to benefit their party.
Just a man walking his dog with his fucking Trump sign. Swear to God. Can't make this shit up.
I have a question.
No, we're not answering
Why?
questions. Get out of my car.
Why?
Because you're a Trump supporter.
I know, but don't you guys want our money?
No, actually, we don't. Get out of my bar right now. You're not welcome. I'm not f***ing around. Get out of my bar.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. Out.
Because I'm wearing a Trump
Yes.
vest. That's wild.
I don't care. Get out.
We can call the police, or you can just leave.
You know this is like discrimination, right?
Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Get out of my bar.
Meet Micah Beckwith, current Lieutenant Governor of Indiana.
So due process is in this situation is: are you here legally?
That isn't.
That is due process. Yes, it is.
Due
So
process
did
is
we-
getting arrested and charged with a crime
If you-
and seeing a judge, and these
No.
people are not seeing a
Listen,
judge. That's not true.
They don't have a right to see a judge.
Why?
They came here illegally. They came here illegally.
If you are on American soil, your status does not matter. You have a legal right in this country for due process.
Micah here has no fucking idea about due process. Just want to point out that the Lieutenant Governor of Indiana doesn't know what rights you have under the Constitution. There has been no invasion of the United States of America, period. It's not happening. That's not a thing. The Lieutenant Governor of Indiana doesn't know that the Supreme Court has held numerous times that regardless of your immigration status in the United States of America, you are afforded the right to due process.
Hoosiers, I am so serious that I think that the new tactic that Republicans use is just straight up lying because nobody holds them accountable. Literally never. Trump will say prices are down, grocery prices are down. And don't get me wrong, there will be an occasional journalist that's like, that's not true. And he'll say something terrible and everybody will just laugh because it's fine to be a piece of crap now. But Braun did the same thing. He said, we are working on making Indiana more affordable, bringing down prices and having a thriving economy. But I'm sorry, my gas prices are up. My grocery prices, my electric, my gas, my water, my property taxes, everything. My property taxes have gotten so high that that little measly $300 he's going to give us a year won't even make a difference. It won't even make a difference. But why should they tell the truth? Because nobody holds them accountable. So Hoosiers, you tell me, are your prices down?
Hey everybody, let's give a quick roundup of how things are going in the state of Indiana now that all of these dipshit laws that everybody said weren't going to do anything have really gone into effect. Indiana alone has lost over 200 programs from all of our various campuses because they are being cut at a state level. Purdue has lost 80, Ball State has lost another 60, and there's more just throughout the state. People have already lost their job because Mike Braun is gutting any instance of DEI in the state and closing down public health offices and departments and firing all of the staff. Rural hospitals are already making plans for when they inevitably close and trying to help the people that are going to those hospitals find another place to get healthcare. We are no longer dedicated to our plan to reduce greenhouse emissions, which is going to negatively impact our farmers and continue changing the growing seasons for all of our farmers. Because of Mike arbitrarily just cutting jobs, unemployment claims in the last week have gone up in comparison to the rest of the year. We have eliminated Indiana public media, so we do not have any kind of public radio available that is being funded by our state. We spent $497 million on private school vouchers. And just to top it all off, we have our first case of measles in central Indiana.
Two of the thirstiest bitches to ever exist, Micah Beckwith and Diego Morales, led a real ragtag group of ruffians in a rally for redistricting at the Indiana State House today, Tuesday, November 18th. And I'm using the word rally very loosely because I don't know what the number limits are for rally, but I'm pretty sure 11 does not qualify as a rally. This is not even a crowd. Maybe it's a group, a small gathering, or a hang. This small group project is being led by Trump fanboys Micah Beckwith and Diego Morales, clad in their Indiana 9-0 merch, making the same argument they have been making for months to support this election cheating nonsense. Their only argument is, well, California did it. Beckwith even claims there is bipartisan support for this. No, dumbass, there's not. There is not bipartisan support to redraw Indiana's maps. There is a bipartisan consensus that gerrymandering is bad and it suppresses the vote, but that's a different conversation. If y'all want to have that conversation, then let's have it. But that's not what is happening here. What is happening here is an acute emergency where the president is infiltrating Indiana and trying to control our elections. You know, the antithesis of states' rights. And isn't it kind of funny that states used to yell states' rights when they really wanted to be racist, and now Indiana is completely ignoring states' rights because they want to be racist? It's very on brand for Indiana.
Rich people are not the only ones who deserve to live in a single family, single generation home. Rich people are not the only ones who deserve to see a future where they get to own a home. But that is the reality that we are living in right now in Indiana. A recent article by WFYI found that the average worker in Indiana can't afford a 2-bedroom apartment at fair market value. We're not even talking about the average minimum wage worker. We're talking about the average worker in Indiana. They can't afford a 2-bedroom apartment at fair market value. That is a serious problem. And quite frankly, it's a manufactured problem, in my opinion. It's a complex manufactured problem. I see one major issue being the fact that big companies are coming in and buying up real estate in towns all across Indiana right now, renovating those homes, and then they're either A, selling them for a very high market price value that they're going to capitalize off of a significant amount compared to what they paid for the property. Number 2, they are then just leasing the property. They're not selling it. They're keeping it and becoming a landlord and leasing it at a great profit to themselves. Or 3, worse than just leasing it, they've converted a single family home into a duplex, and now they're leasing it. And they're making great capital for themselves, which they will maintain the benefit of for many years to come.
So let's talk minimum wage. Did you know that the federal minimum wage is $7.25? And Indiana, being Indiana, hasn't raised it at all. Someone making a minimum wage works 40 hours a week. That's about $290. And that's before taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and anything else is taken out. So in Indiana, we have a relatively lower cost of living than many places. But in Lafayette, an average apartment can cost you around $900 a month. And then you talk about groceries. That's another $200 a week, and the average cost of owning a car in our state is around $430-ish a month. So let's do the math. If I work 40 hours a week at $7.25 an hour, I'm making a little more than $1,100 a month. You add up all of my expenses, and my expenses for just groceries, rent, and owning a car, because we don't have great public transportation here, we're talking about $2,100-ish a month. And if you remember, I'm only making $1,100 a month. So just to cover the basics, I'm already net negative $1,000. There's no money to cover the basics, let alone anything else. But not every wage is supposed to be a living wage. That's what they like to say. To that, I like to say, every wage should be a living wage if you're working 40 hours a week. If you're only working 20, 10, maybe you can't live on that. But if I work 40 hours a week for Walmart, who is bringing in billions of dollars a year in profit, I should be able to pay for an apartment, my car, and my groceries. Federal minimum wage has lost 21% of its buying power since 2009. But guess who does get an automatic cost of living and inflation increase every single year to their salary? That's right, the congressman in Washington, D.C.
Victoria Sparks held a town hall yesterday, and boy, was it messy.
To make sure that we come after all of the fraud in the system and able if you seek asylum way in the other country, not getting here in the country. So there is no due process if you come here illegally because you violated the law. Period. You violated the law. You are not entitled to due process. Legal violence and these people violated law. It is violated law, and that's why we need to make sure we take this under control.
I just wanted to see what your plan is to address the issue with the administration talking about classified military operations on Signal. We would demand the immediate resignation of Pete Hegseth, Michael Waltz, and the rest of the group chat.
So let me just address, no, I will not demand their resignation.
As the promises fade and the pressure grows, many are speaking out for the first time, revealing how the economic cracks are affecting their families, their jobs, and their futures. These voices matter, and their stories deserve to be heard.
The result of the tariffs has been devastating for soybean farmers in particular. Currently, 25% of our soybeans grown in the United States goes to China. Right now, China has purchased 0 soybeans. We want to deliver the message to President Trump and his leadership team that we need trade. He's mentioned many times that he loves farmers. Right now, we need to see swift action, or we're going to lose a lot of these farmers that the president loves.
You're going to bail them out. That's fine. You want to help them? I support farmers. I support that. However, do you know also what would have helped is if the president of the United States wouldn't have jacked up the tariffs and screwed all the farmers? But hey, a majority of Indiana voted for this, and he talked exactly about tariffs. Did we not understand? So for me, like giving a bailout for people who voted for this and didn't do research prior, like, that's not my fault. I know exactly how tariffs work. I'm not sure that the bailout is going to fix everything and make it all better. You're just putting a Band-Aid on a big-ass wound.
I'm going to jail, so actually that was all fucking you.
If you guys were attacked, why are you addressing women? I can address you too. I can address you too. Just because you get triggered by us wearing hats, okay, that's insane. For you guys to get triggered by us wearing hats,
You can go be a proud
you guys
fascist
are
over
so
there.
fucking childish. You guys should be ashamed of
You can go sit down. Children, bye.
You start cursing at us. You people are fucking children.
Hey, fuck off, kid.
You start cursing at us, and then you're fucking children.
Indiana's Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith held a town hall in Newburgh, Indiana, which is in Warwick County. At some point during the town hall, after unleashing a beautiful string of expletives at our disgusting Lieutenant Governor, a woman was asked to exit the town hall. So she got up from her chair and started to leave. The next thing you know, she is face down on the floor being handcuffed by sheriff's deputies. In a subsequent social media post, Beckwith claims that this woman slapped one of those deputies, but as far as I know, there's been no video of that. Maybe body cam footage will be released eventually. But what Beckwith does as she is attempting to leave the town hall is chilling. Take a look.
Unfortunately, it is a mental disorder. TDS.
He said, it is a mental disorder, TDS. TDS stands for Trump Derangement Syndrome, and it's a fun little acronym that MAGA trolls have made up. You'll see it frequently in my comment section. They use that term because they are in a cult and they like to feel special, like they have their own vocabulary. Beckwith's behavior during this clip seems really out of place until you recognize what he is doing. He is employing a classic tactic of an abuser, of a gaslighter, remaining unbelievably calm as he endorses fascism and then calls someone's reaction to that endorsement crazy. He accuses that woman of being mentally ill while he endorses the behavior of a fascist administration. I have no doubt that TDS is a real thing, but it's pretty clear that woman and people like me are not the ones afflicted. The people who are afflicted are people like Micah Beckwith, people who claim to be Christians, people who claim to be pastors, but also endorse the behavior of habitual sexual predators, continue to vote for habitual sexual predators and felons for president, people who call the Three-Fifths Compromise a great idea, people who call women who disagree with them Jezebels and witches, people who want the president to come into the state of Indiana to rig our elections to help him cheat, people who support the rantings of our president as he complains that nobody talks about the good parts of slavery. And Micah Beckwith continues to defend his abhorrent behavior with his interpretation of Christianity. He is doing all of this because he is going to be judged by God someday. I get an unbelievable amount of satisfaction knowing how people like Micah Beckwith are going to be remembered in the history books. But I honestly get giddy at the thought that someday people like Micah Beckwith are going to realize their version of heaven doesn't exist. They were just an unbelievable asshole on earth for their entire life for nothing.
When it comes to suppressing voters' right to choose who they want to represent them. So it was all the more shocking when Vice President Vance visited Mike Braun last week to talk about gerrymandering our congressional districts so that it's harder for Democrats to win, which means it's harder for certain people to have their voices heard. But that's not the only thing that Indiana has done. We're one of 6 states that have straight party ticket voting, which means when you might vote for someone at the presidential level, you can then just click R or D and it just pulls down and votes for everybody else. You never really know who you're voting for. You're simply voting for a party. Indiana is also very highly gerrymandered already when it comes to the state senate and state representative map, which means there's less reason for people to come out and vote. Indiana is also really good at changing voter locations on people. You'll see that one year you're voting at the school that you've been voting at for the last 50 years, and you'll show up to that school and they'll say, sorry, you can't vote here. You got to go across town and vote at the other voting center, which we switched you to. And by the way, we didn't go out of our way to really make sure you knew that. Indiana is also one of 15 states that makes it so that you can only register to vote 30 days before the election. 22 states allow you to register on the day of. This means at the time when you are thinking most about the election, you're not able to register for it. Indiana has a cumbersome absentee ballot process with tons of questions that are somewhat irrelevant and somewhat prying as well that makes people even scared to fill it out. Right here in Indiana 9, the way the district has been drawn, it actually encompasses 5 different media markets. So if I were to place an ad in the Louisville newspaper, it wouldn't get to those who get their media from Bloomington or Evansville or Cincinnati or Indianapolis. And then we have intrastate restrictions, which are rules that have been passed at the state level to make it so that cities are unable to express themselves. So the people that you vote for to represent you in the city can't do things like raise their minimum wage above what the state says, or they can't make landlord restrictions harder. These things invalidate what it is to be a city official and make it so that voters have less reason to go out.
Republicans voting to not redistrict, despite the efforts of this administration of J.D. Vance being all up in Indiana trying to schmooze the senators, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Indiana, who's mostly a red state, has said, fuck you. And I'm here for it. Go Indiana. Proud.
What is the current status? There's been tons of videos. Everybody's talking about tariffs, what they are, what they're not. I'm just going to give you a current status update on where things are right now and how it's affecting people here in Indiana. Because on average, we're seeing rising costs for households between $2,000 and $3,000 this year alone. And that's not looking like it's going to get any better. That's not on just luxury goods anymore. It's now on everyday things. So how that affects us here in Indiana? Well, China, Canada, Mexico, those are our biggest trade partners. And they're the places that Indiana gets the most of its imported goods from. And those imports from China facing big tariffs, that's electronics, packaging, all more expensive. Lots of Indiana businesses rely on Chinese suppliers, so those businesses are really hurting because of that. Then you got Canada and Mexico, also some of our biggest partners that are really getting hit. That's a really big deal for the auto industry because we make a lot of cars here in Indiana, but we depend on parts from both of those countries. So with those prices rising, some manufacturers are starting to slow production. I've seen some estimates that say car prices could jump $10,000 over the coming years if the automakers end up just deciding to start passing along those costs. So that will remain to be seen. You got a lot of European goods that are affected by this. So olive oil, wine, machinery, all facing tariffs. India, the tariffs there are really affecting textiles and spices, a lot of which we use here in Indiana. Then you have seafood from Vietnam, which is really popular. That's a big imported item here in Indiana. Those are getting hit with tariffs. But speaking of Vietnam, we get a lot of clothing from Vietnam and Bangladesh, a ton. And those are facing really big tariffs as well. So that $50 pair of sneakers, you're going to have to add on $20 or $25 just in tariffs alone. Online shopping is now affected. So if you're someone who's getting skincare products from South Korea, you're paying extra. Small clothing brands are really going to start getting crushed from all this. But for Indiana residents, all this means is that you're facing higher prices at the grocery store, at the gas pump, and online. Farmers are actually getting hit as well because of the retaliatory tariffs that are being placed on our goods that are being exported. Things like soybeans, eggs, really nailing farmers, and that's going to be really bad news for rural communities here in Indiana. As you know, the vast majority of our communities here in Indiana are rural, so it's really going to be taking a toll there. Small businesses are really struggling. They're seeing costs jump by 30%, 50%. Some are pausing hiring or cutting hours just to stay afloat. So stay informed, keep asking questions, but really support your local businesses because they're fighting for survival now.
Years ago. What about 10 years ago or even 20 years ago? If you answered no to any of those questions, then if you live in Indiana, you need to stop voting for Republicans. If you've experienced that the cost of living has gone up, that your taxes have gone up, but your wages have not kept up with these increases, then you need to stop voting for Republicans if you live in Indiana. Indiana has had one-party Republican rule for the last 24, almost 25 years. That means we've had a Republican governor, a Republican majority in the Senate, and a Republican majority in the House, which also means that they can make laws without consulting Democrats. Which means that all of the policies that have been created that you don't like in Indiana have been made by Republicans because they cannot be approved without Republicans' approval.
You're actually not saving a ton of money by living in Indiana. Indiana is at the top of the list for the rising cost of living in consideration of the quality of life that Indiana offers. Housing, utilities, groceries, gas, quite literally, all of the costs of living in Indiana are inflating beyond what wages in Indiana can keep up with. Indiana school boards all over the state are financially gutting public education programs in exchange for voucher programs to charter and private schools, which is then inflating the tuition costs of said charter and private schools. Micah Beckwith, who is a literal Nazi, has been harassing public schools all over the state with the specific intentions to obliterate diversity and mandate white Christian nationalism into public school curriculums.
$7 for 10 slices of cheese?
I know they lying. $13.99 for a goddamn watermelon.
You want some fruit, honey?
Yeah. Let me go sell the car.
$40.60 for a fruit tray.
This is my favorite shit. Simply orange juice. $7. That's simply too high. Put this shit on Simply layaway.
Look at these dumpsters. They're filled with dog beds. They take razor blades to them and cut them so nobody can garbage pick them.
The grilled beef, why is it $30? Who can afford that? A box of cereal costs $6. Look at this, $6 for a box of cereal. Who can afford this shit?
I really felt like grocery prices were getting out of hand about a year ago when to buy the ingredients to make spaghetti went from being $20 to $25 to being $40 to $50.
Oh my God, look at these prices. $3.99 for a little small tub of cream cheese. That's the deal. That's the lowest price. You want a watermelon? It's only $8. Check out the bacon. Okay, so the lowest price was $5.99 and it went up to $12.99 for a pound of bacon. French fries, $5.99, $3.99, $6.49. Everyone's favorite, ice cream, $6.99. Look at that thrifty ice cream. There's nothing thrifty about $6.49. How about some Ben & Jerry's for $4.99? Remember how cheap Pringles used to be? It's just off the charts. Everything. Look at this, pizza. I'm not showing you the greatest foods because meat is out of control, but frozen pizzas, they start off as low as $4.99, but they're all like $6.99, $11.99. For a frozen pizza, you get to take it home and make it yourself. $10.99.
BlackRock has officially bought our electric grid. A private-owned company now owns all of our electric grid in Indiana and Ohio in the name of mass producing AI data centers. If you are not in Indiana and don't know how hard we've been fighting data centers and our rising energy costs, our bills went up about $400 just in the last 2 months. And now that's expected to get even worse as BlackRock has just secured a $33 billion deal acquiring AES, which is the power company responsible for all of the electricity in Indiana and Ohio. BlackRock's investment as it comes to AI is privatizing energy so that they can supply and drain neighboring cities and now all of Indiana just so they can divert power grid supply to AI data centers.
Listen, Indiana is not number one in many things. Education being one of them. But look, we got number one in something. Look at that. Isn't that lovely?
Indiana thinks that it's acceptable for employers to pay their employees $7.25 an hour. Now, I'm not naive. I know that that's not what most employers pay, but they do exist. And I just wanted to point out that 1 hour worth of work at $7.25 an hour can buy me a family pack of fruit snacks, 1 pound of ground beef. It could buy me 4 children's protein shakes. It could buy me this pancake sausage on a stick situation. It could buy me a 12-pack of Pepsi. I could buy applesauce pouches. I could buy this carton of blueberries. I could buy snack packs of goldfish, this bag of frozen pasta. I could get this bag of frozen chicken nuggets or 4 Starbucks drinks. So I could work for 12 hours and be able to walk out with 12 things from the grocery store. Honestly, less, because we know that just because you earned it, $7.25 does not mean that that's what you get to bring home. There's taxes, healthcare, Social Security, all those things. So 12 hours, 12 items. Absolutely nothing of that going towards childcare, housing, transportation, or fun. So now let's think full time. And so you work 40 hours a week. That doesn't even get you a full cart of groceries. Our minimum wage hasn't risen since 2009. And our prices have substantially increased since then without wages following suit. So they are recording record profits while our wages fall behind.
You have to be kidding me, right? Yesterday at this time, gas was $4.19. Do you know how much it is right now? $4.99. And yesterday my feet hurt. So I was like, I don't want to put gas right now. I should have put gas yesterday. Because what the hell? $4.19 to $4.99.
The farmers market here in Bloomington, Indiana, where I live. And I'm going to tell you right now, I just found out that the city of Bloomington, if they find out that these farmers at the farmers market are selling their products for less than BlackRock stores like Kroger and Walmart, they get fined. The city of Bloomington literally tells them This is how much minimum you have to charge for your product, so that Walmart and Kroger, which are BlackRock companies, gets to sell their shit, their poison shit, for cheaper. I seen a pint of strawberries, which I literally counted them, 10 strawberries for $7. Who's going to buy that? Nobody. I wanted to get some collard greens because I wanted to make greens today. 8 leaves for $7. That's basically $1 a leaf for collard greens. And they know, the city of Bloomington knows, because they have contracts to do this with BlackRock companies.
What's up, America? I'm here at a grocery store in Indiana, and I'm going to check out the ridiculous meat prices. By the way, prices for meat, they haven't been coming down. It's worse than it's ever been. Let's take a look. Or nearly as bad as it's ever been. So I'm going to start with pork prices because those are still low. $5 or $10. So they're about $1 a pork chop. That's average. But then we have the stew meat at $13, $17 for cube steak. Stew meat is expensive. The steak is expensive as hell. Some of the highest I've seen. Same over there. Good Lord. Let's do $25.99. Yeah, good God. So look at that. $35. Yeah, that's insane. These meat prices we're looking at what? $7.50. And there's a 3 pound, so that's going to be more. So you got $12 right there. $12 for Kroger beef patties. $10 for 4 right there. Chicken is cheap, though. Not bad. You can see, except for bacon, pork is fairly cheap. But then you have steak is crushing it. $8 a pound for beef. It's killing it. And sausage, still not a bad price on sausage. So it's mainly just beef. Now sausage is a little high. Here's all the lunch meat. You're looking at high price for beef bologna because it's better. Then you have your bacon prices, still $8, $7.5 you have it. Still pretty high. So that's your meat prices here in the Midwest. Go to a butcher. Jesus Christ.
I just got home from Kroger, and I want to say that I am appalled at how much groceries were. It is just 2 of us, and groceries will last us maybe 2 weeks because, you know, people eat every day. And I'm going to show you how much I got. It was almost $419, almost $430, and I coupon, and I saved about $43. So if I didn't coupon, thank God I do, groceries for 2 people would have been $500. And like, really, I got the essentials and maybe some snacks. Like, I don't even know what in here is dinners and whatnot, but like, it's nuts. Okay, so yeah, I did get a fern and a pansy, but come on. I mean, like, this would have been $500 if I didn't coupon.
I don't normally commute. I don't usually care about gas prices because I work from my house. And when I do, I have to go to the airport and park and fly, and it's usually on my company's dime, right? But right here in central Indiana, we have hit $4.99 per gallon for gas. And so that means we're at California level prices, baby. Hell yeah, so much winning, we're going to be tired of winning. Because fuel prices have doubled in the last 2 months right here in MAGA country. You know, a state that overwhelmingly voted for the guy, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And yeah, you're basically getting what you voted for. A guy that can't figure out how to handle Iran and fight his way out of a wet paper bag. And yeah, every one of you are paying for it. And I'm just laughing at your sorry asses.
I'm pretty sure that being woke, aware, alert, in the know of what's really going on right now and how everything just sucks. I'm in Indiana. We got the highest gas prices at $5 a gallon. Can't afford to eat. Can't afford to go outside. Doesn't even look like we can afford summer this year, being as it's 46 on May 3rd. But so many people are depressed. So many people are just lost. So many people are just tired. In the ultimate form of tired, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, brainily. The more you know, the more it sucks. And the cutting gas now, well, oh my goodness.
This shit is getting insane. What do you mean that gas went from $4.19 at $7.59? It is 8:07 as I'm recording this. It is now $4.79. It went up 60 cents yesterday, $3.59. What the do you mean it's almost $5? Yeah, the wage here, $7.25. So you're telling me like what is the least amount allowed to be paid at 1 hour of your job because taxes is literally a gallon of gas. And my hours are getting cut. And I'm moving in July. I've never been more stressed in my life. We're going to do as a collective, especially since it's been confirmed that they are watering it down. So it's also, you're not getting as much bang for your buck.
As more Indiana families share their struggles, the economic pressure is becoming impossible to overlook. Skyrocketing utility costs, gas, grocery, and other expenses are forcing many to choose between essential needs and monthly bills. Stay with us until the very end as these real stories uncover the true impact of Indiana's growing affordability crisis.
Oh, so gas is $4.99. $4.99.
Indiana just outpaced the nation for the biggest single-week increase in the average price of gas. Gas Buddy is reporting the average price for a gallon of unleaded jumped 84 cents in the Hoosier State, up to $4.40 a gallon. Here in Indy, we've seen most places topping out at $4.99 a gallon, or just a few cents shy. These are some of the highest averages impacting the state in nearly 4 years. Experts attribute this surge in prices to the ongoing conflict in Iran and battle over control for the Strait of Hormuz. We caught up with several Hoosiers filling their gas tanks today. All of them said they can see and feel the price jump.
With two more gas stations 1 second down the road. And guess what? Right here is the best option.
If I time it right, then I can maybe get to the $70 mark. But if I have to fill up the whole tank the way they've been, it's been almost $100.
So I'm getting gas here in Plainfield this morning. Indiana's gas tax is tied to the price of gas. So when gas goes up, the tax automatically goes up. Where are our Republican state leaders? I think families deserve a better tax policy than that.
Indiana has experienced the highest week-to-week gas jump in the country. We are at number one. We're number one. 84 cents in a week. And it feels like it all just happened yesterday, honestly.
Gas is costing $4.83 today in Indiana. Employers are firing their employees because they can't afford to pay their bills. Employees can't afford the gas to get to work. And even if they can't afford the groceries to feed their families. Sure as shit can't afford their medications or any form of health care. So are we great again yet?
Seriously starting to regret getting this diesel truck.
So Indiana legislators were able to approve the increase for electricity and gas rates from NIPSCO. GenCo, another business created from NIPSCO, a tax break for data centers up to 50 years. They also approved like a non-compete agreement with NIPSCO. And they also made it illegal to be homeless, living on public property. But they could not agree to raise the minimum wage from $7.25, considering the fact that the minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. Very interesting.
Today I want to talk to you about your utility bills in Indiana and why they aren't just shaped by economics, they are shaped by politics. And a big part of that comes down to one thing: who controls the process and who holds the power within it. So what does that look like in Indiana? Well, every bill filed has to go through a committee hearing first, and the chairs of those committees hold a lot of power. They decide what bills get heard. So even if a bill has strong public support, even if lawmakers back it, it can be stopped before there's ever a real debate. If a committee chair doesn't call the bill, that bill dies. So let me walk you through a real example. Not only do I serve as a state rep, I'm also a nurse practitioner. And a bill that I have filed the last several years, a bill that would benefit nurse practitioners and patients, a bill that has even been filed in the Senate and passed out of Senate committee twice, has never gotten a hearing in the House. Why is that? Well, because the Indiana State Medical Association, a lobbying group, opposes the bill, and the chair of the Health Committee in the House is a member of the ISMA, and he refuses to hear the bill. So even though the bill would lower costs and improve access to health care, it has never moved forward. That's how much power exists in the process and how easily it can be used to stop change.
When your gas and electric bill go up hundreds of dollars, the state starts asking questions. The state of Indiana is officially launching an investigation into NIPSCO's natural gas meters. All across Indiana, NIPSCO customers are complaining that their bills have doubled, almost tripled in some cases. And this is all much more than the 16% increase that NIPSCO said was coming this year. NIPSCO, for its part, is aware that people are really upset about these high bills, and they're pointing people to assistance programs, but customers say that's just not enough. A lot of people are skeptical that the state investigation will uncover anything because it's not looking at why the supply charge on these bills is so high. Rather, the investigation is focusing on potential errors with the gas meter readings. For now, protests are ongoing, and customers really hope that NIPSCO will take their concerns seriously, and at some point in the future, there could be a cap placed on these rate increases so they don't get out of control.
If you live in Indiana, you're most likely seeing your utility bills skyrocket, and it's not because you're using more power. The truth is, you're paying for data centers. Massive data centers are moving into Indiana at a rapid pace. They're getting massive tax breaks, some for 30 years. They're making sweetheart deals with the utility companies. And they're getting guaranteed power. All while working class Hoosiers are getting stuck with higher rates and unsustainable grids. Let's be honest about what this is. It's corporate welfare causing higher utility rates. These massive facilities are using an insane amount of electricity and water, and that's not lowering your rates. It's driving up demand, and the utility companies are passing that burden on to working class families.
Did you know that in Indiana, our rates are increasing faster than any other state in the country right now? It's something to really be aware of, and the reason that we are where we are is because our state legislature has allowed our utility companies unchecked rate hikes in Indiana. We are paying for every infrastructure update they need. Anytime they need to expand buildings, add on to them, it's all on the backs of us. Hoosiers are footing the bill. And it's something our legislators have allowed for years.
Indiana lawmakers keep passing morality-based bills. Meanwhile, my clients are passing on basic needs. They're choosing what to pay for this month. Food, housing, healthcare, meds. Surprise! Pick one. Then we're framing this as a mental health care crisis instead of what it is, a cost of living crisis causing mental health care issues. Can't therapy your way out of living in survival mode because your needs are not being met chronically.
Minimum wage been $7.25 since I graduated high school. I repeat, minimum wage has been $7.25 since I was in high school. A stick of deodorant, the good deodorant, we ain't talking about the stuff that's gonna still have you musty 5 minutes after you put it on. A decent container dispenser bottle of deodorant, I don't know what the word is, costs more than $7.25. The minimum wage has been $7.25 for 17 years.
So over the weekend, Indiana Governor Mike Braun posted this on Twitter, basically saying the wages in Indiana are so high and the cost of living is so low, everything's hunky-dory. And not only is this claim absurd from a factual standpoint, but it's actually a slap in the face to so many working families here in Indiana who are struggling. Because when we look at the data closely, the idea that Indiana has high wages and a low standard of living, so everything's great, it simply doesn't hold up. In fact, the picture is really the opposite. Because if we first start talking about wages, Indiana consistently ranks below most states when it comes to pay. As of late last year, we were in the bottom third. We were ranked 33rd in the nation when it came to wages. And even after you adjust for the cost of living, we only go up a couple places to number 29. And the problem is, even when our wages do start to rise, we're still being far outpaced by the national trends of rising wages in other states. Now, it is true that the cost of living here in Indiana is much lower than many other states around the country, but the problem is that is changing fast. Household costs are rising faster than wages, and that's eroding any benefit that we might get from those lower prices or that lower cost of living. 6 months last year, inflation added $668 in extra costs for Indiana families. Then when you talk about essentials like housing, transportation, food, childcare, healthcare especially, are all rising especially fast. In just a couple of years, the cost of necessities in Indiana has risen 8.2%, which far outpaces national inflation.
What is the latest electric bill that you can remember paying?
Our latest was $593. Last month it was $603. I have never, ever paid that kind of money.
I'm here in Evansville, Indiana, where residents have seen one of the highest rate hikes in the country.
People are going without medicine or taking their medicine every other day instead of every day. People are going to food banks because they can't afford to buy food. People are not paying other bills so that they can satisfy the center point bill and not have their electricity cut off.
Energy should be available to everyone. It should not be a luxury item, and it's become a luxury item. What I'm holding is a chart showing the amount of people who are 60 days behind in paying their bill. When the first phase of our rate increase occurred in March, you can see that giant spike, and we're all the way up to folks owing $4.9 million in arrears.
And while Hoosiers are squeezed by skyrocketing bills, Wall Street's takeover of utilities continues to spread across the Midwest.
I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income, and you have to decide between medications or buying certain foods or being able to rob one bill to pay another bill.
All night, we heard from people who said their bills were completely unaffordable, even if they were using less energy than ever.
I use more electricity on that day than any other day during the week. I was not even home.
Who quacks like a duck, acts like a duck, it's a duck. And there's something ain't right with this.
It's just one of the many ways that corporate greed is squeezing working people for everything that they're worth. And without regulators stepping in, it's only set to get worse.
CenterPoint Energy is nothing but a thief.
I call CenterPoint greed gangsters. Do more for the people instead of robbers blind like you're doing.
Indianapolis, stop building apartments and buying apartments when the economy in Indianapolis and the job market does not pay to match 3 times the rent. And before anybody say, well, people have to make a profit, people have to, get a return on their investment, you did better keeping your money in your pocket. The job market, the average person in Indiana making 15, the best 17. And don't say, oh, well, they can work at Costco. Everybody can't work at Costco. And the minimum wage here is $7.25.
The rising utility bills and other expenses are doing more than straining budgets. They're changing how families across Indiana live, plan, and survive. The personal stories shared throughout this video reveal the serious financial challenges many Americans are facing as everyday costs continue to rise. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this video gave you something to think about, please like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories from everyday Americans, and click on the video on your screen now to hear more powerful experiences from communities across the country.